Hey guys, welcome back. Long time no see. I have been gone like 2 weeks. 2 weeks I'm pretty sure is the longest break I've ever taken on YouTube, so thanks for hanging in there. For those of you who don't follow me on social media and have no idea what's going on, I've been off because I moved. This is my new office, so you will no longer see me sitting in front of my bed. We're so happy in the house. A bunch of you have been asking for a house tour. If I do that, which I probably will pretty soon here, I will be posting that to my vlog channel, my second channel if you want to see our house and stuff. The links for that will be in the description box. But yes, I am moved and settled in and so recharged and ready to start making videos for you guys again. I have so many good ones planned. You guys are going to love everything I have coming up in the next few months. And today we're gonna kick it off with a bang, with a conspiracy theory. And man, this one, oh my God, this one's crazy, you guys. Now the theory, let's just get right into it, okay? The theory is that Donald Trump is a time traveler. I do conspiracy videos where I pretty much debunk them, and I'm sure a lot of you are thinking, oh, this is one of those stupid ones she's gonna debunk. No. This one is actually mind-blowing. I am really surprised, and there's a lot of evidence and facts here to work with, and it's really surprising. So we're gonna look at the theory. I don't know if it's true. You have to be the final judge, but it's pretty nuts. Now, I don't want to get into politics with this video. I want you to be able to watch this whether you're a Democrat or Republican or whatever you are. This is just a really interesting theory. So many of you, I'm sure, have heard of Nikola Tesla. Nikola Tesla was a Serbian inventor who was actually born in Croatia in 1856. He was a super smart guy, was kind of known as a mad scientist because he did do some wacky stuff, including falling in love with a pigeon. Yes, true story. But the dude was also brilliant, and sometimes the most brilliant people are like kind of the oddballs. So he was definitely known as like this, you know, crazy scientist who came up with really out there ideas. He was very interested in, you know, space-time continuum, time traveling, really, really interesting out there things. Tesla was definitely a futurist, was focused on where we're going and just trying to break boundaries. And you may recognize his name from Elon Musk's company, Tesla. They make these sick cars that I want so bad. Dream car, they're really cool, fuel efficient, and will probably be driving themselves one day. He in fact predicted self-driving cars like a long time ago. And if you guys want me to do a whole video on a bunch of his predictions and just kind of go through them, similar to what I did with Baba Vanga, then yeah, let me know by giving this video a thumbs up. Anyway, this guy had balls. He used himself in his own experiments, even for time traveling. He had built his own time machine and had claimed that he was able to go into the immediate future and the immediate past. I don't think he was able to do anything too crazy, but I mean, that's crazy enough, right? If it even happened. He moved to the US in the late 1800s, and when he died in 1943, the US actually took all of his stuff. And you guys aren't gonna believe this, but the name of the office that seized all of Tesla's information, all of his work, everything he was working on, everything he's doing, was actually the Office of Alien Property. Yes, that is seriously what it's called. You can look it up. So, you know, once it got in the hands of them and the FBI, they wanted to hire someone who knew what they were doing to look through all of Tesla's work, all of his notes, and see if there's anything that they could possibly weaponize, just like ideas, stuff like that. And they actually hired a guy, and he was an MIT professor who was very, very smart, and he was hired to go through all of Tesla's things and see if there was anything, you know, any ideas that were there that could be used. And this guy was none other than John Trump. Yes, you are hearing that right. This was actually Donald Trump's uncle. And this is fact, you can look it up. His name is John Trump. He was actually a very, very smart scientist, very intelligent. When Trump talks about how his family's super smart, he wasn't lying. His family has actually a lot of smart people in it. He was actually elected to the American Academy of Arts and Sciences in 1950, as well as the National Academy of Engineering in 1977, plus all of his degrees, master's degrees, science. I mean, this guy has a long record of just proof that he is smart, okay? He was considered to be a pioneer in the field of high voltage machinery. During World War II, he was working on nuclear stuff, and since he worked in radiation, he actually developed an X-ray for cancer patients and saved multiple lives. So anyway, John Trump was in charge of going through all of Nikola Tesla's stuff. And he reported back to the government that there was nothing there. In fact, his official statement was this: Tesla's thoughts and efforts during at least the past 15 years were primarily speculative, philosophical, and somewhat promotional character, but did not include new, sound, workable principles or methods for realizing such results. But a lot of people around that time were like, really? You looked through all of Tesla's stuff and found nothing? Now it makes total sense. If you did find something, especially like time travel, which Tesla said he was pretty close to figuring out. According to him, he already had machines working and he was already kind of going back and forth is what he was saying. And I mean, who knows, right? But if there was something there, why would they turn it over to the government? It makes complete sense to me that he would have just kept it, especially if there was something juicy in there about how to time travel. So of course this leads people to think that Donald Trump has time traveled here. And this isn't as crazy of a theory as you may think it is. And I'm not saying it's true, because there's definitely not enough evidence to say that or anything close. But it's very compelling and very interesting. A huge part of this theory is time traveling backwards. There were a series of books that were written a long time ago. You can look them up, and they were written by a man named Ingersoll Lockwood. And these books are from right around the time where Nikola Tesla came to the United States, right around 1890, which was, I think, maybe even the same year or within a couple of years of when he went to the United States. And when you hear about these books, you're just not even gonna believe it. I was shocked when I saw this. One of them is called Baron Trump's Marvelous Underground Journey, and there was another book called The Last President, and it's a sequel to the first one. These books are totally legit. You can see them at the Library of Congress. If you didn't know, Trump's son is named Barron, and a lot of people think that Barron has autism. I don't think it's ever been confirmed or anything, and I'm not saying it's true, but that's pretty widely discussed. And being someone who I took an entire class on autism alone in the entire spectrum, I always kind of thought maybe it's possible he's somewhere on the spectrum. But according to this theory, it's possible he has time traveled, which has made him a little off. In the book, it's kind of confusing. The character Barron, I don't think his name is Barron. I think his name is Trump, but he's a Baron Trump. Like that was like used as a description word. And there's also a main character named Don, which obviously is pretty freaking weird. But I did look into that a little more, and I guess it's the same as like in the Spanish language. Don is used as like a name of respect, like Mr., like Don Julio is all I can think of right now. So I don't know if it quite meant Donald, but it is super weird. Baron Trump and Don are the main characters in this book, and that's totally true. Now, it gets even weirder. The book takes place, actually in the beginning of it, in Russia. In the book, there's also a Fifth Avenue hotel in New York City. It's not called Trump Tower or anything, but guess what? Trump Tower is on Fifth Avenue in New York, the exact same street. And the other book is literally called The Last President, which is scary. And that's what Baba Vanga, if you remember from my Baba Vanga video, which I'll link below, she said that Barack Obama would be the last president. Which clearly didn't happen, but maybe it's in another sense we don't understand. The story actually begins in New York City with a scene of uprise and panic after an election in November. And the people are angry, police are trying to control them, they're saying down with the rich and the powerful. I mean, it is like eerily similar to Donald Trump. Here's part of the book. The entire east side is in a state of uproar. Police officers shouted through the streets, warning city folk to stay indoors for the night. Mobs of vast size are organizing under the lead of anarchists and socialists and threaten to plunder and despoil the houses of the rich who have wronged and oppressed them for so many years. The Fifth Avenue Hotel will be the first to feel the fury of the mob. And that's literally the address of where Trump Tower is. I mean, it's like bizarre.
Screw our president!
And it's like, yeah, there's a lot of like little coincidences, but all of them together, it seems pretty weird that there's a Don character, there's a Trump character. In fact, it's Baron Trump, the same name as little Baron Trump, the same address, the fact that it's a president, the fact that it's an election, that people are angry. I mean, it shows like so many things. I mean, the book is pretty out there though. I mean, there's other things in it that are ridiculous, like giant turtles and battling them, traveling through alternate dimensions, which, you know, is definitely possible though. A battle with a big white crane, a dog named Bulgur, and a little smiling man frozen in time. I don't know, guys. This whole thing just gives me the creeps. So those are the books, and you know, these books came out a long time ago, the end of the 1900s, so way before Donald Trump was born or Barron Trump. Okay, so now we have to talk about John Titor. In 2000, actually, there was a man named John Titor. I don't know if it's Titor, I don't know. John Titor showed up on internet forums back in 2000. And keep in mind, the internet's pretty fresh in 2000, so there weren't that many people online. And this was an actual thing that happened. There really was a guy named John who claimed to be a time traveler that was going around online forums and telling people about what was happening in 2036, which is the year that he came from. He said that he was a soldier and he lived in a world of political corruption and basically nuclear waste. And he even claimed, and this is back in 2000, that the world will be run by ISIS at that point. So he came back in time to tell everyone. Now, of course, this could have just been someone fucking with people on the internet, like absolutely. But this guy did know some things and predicted some things. And he claimed that he was just stopping in 2000 for personal reasons and to warn people, but was actually headed back to 1975. And after a little while, John completely disappeared from the internet and hasn't been heard from since. My goal is not to be believed. Perhaps I should let you all in on a little secret. No one likes you in the future. This time period is looked at as being full of lazy, self-centered, civically ignorant sheep. Perhaps you should be less concerned about me and more concerned about that. He also gave some predictions. One of them was a secret function that was on a computer, the IBM 5100. This was a new computer at the time, and he claimed that there was a secret function on it where anything could be translated to like any language. And he claimed that the company was keeping it under wraps to avoid competition finding it and basically stealing the idea. No one knew how to access it. People tried for a while, and then in 2004, once John had disappeared from the internet, the company IBM actually came forward and told everyone about this secret function and that it's been there the whole time. And John also had a symbol that he would always share from the future. I don't know if it's just time traveling or what, but it's just kind of an interesting design. And then in one of his posts, he just randomly wrote the question, "Care to share with me how you solved the overheating problem on your space plane?" Space plane, very interesting. No one knew what he was talking about, and he basically was just like, well, wait and find out. And in 2003, as most of you probably know, the Columbia was a spaceship and they had 7 crew members, and the spaceship exploded due to overheating.
Columbia began its descent back to Earth, and these are pictures of their last moments alive.
Columbia is a beautiful ship. She's performing magnificently.
GNC flight. Everything looked good to you? Control and rates and everything is nominal, right?
Control's been stable. We have good trims. I don't see anything out of the ordinary.
I've just lost 4 separate temperature transducers on the left side of the vehicle, hydraulic return temperatures.
And Columbia, Houston, we see your tire pressure messages, and we did not copy
Is it
your last.
instrumentation, Max?
Flight Max, those are also off zero.
Columbia, Houston, comm check. Columbia, Houston, UHF, 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 comm check.
GC flight. Fly GC. Lock the doors. Copy.
So a lot of people think that John actually knew about that and was hinting that that was going to happen. But the whole John thing became sort of just like known as an internet hoax because he predicted some things that were wrong. For example, he predicted that there would be civil war in America in 2004. That didn't happen. He predicted that mad cow disease would spread all over the world and would force them to cancel the Olympics. That didn't happen. But a lot of people who actually believe John and really believe everything that he said think that those things didn't happen because he warned people in time. So I don't really know. It definitely could have just been someone screwing around on the internet. What's really interesting about it is when he was writing all these posts online, he said that he was creating a new timeline, because when you travel into the past, it creates a new timeline entirely. And this is when we get into start talking about like alternate dimensions and alternate realities. So he said his reality was different than ours. So it's possible that some of the things he said were going to happen did happen in another timeline, but we're in something new altogether. Does that make sense? There might be like a bunch of versions of you. Crazy thought. Now, in case you haven't already figured it out, there are a lot of people out there that think that John Titor, whoever this guy is, was actually Donald Trump. The way that they talked is very similar, very brash and aggressive and sort of like angry and know-it-all-y. So very similar. Obviously we have no real proof that it was Donald Trump, but it's very interesting to think about. So the theory basically goes that John went into the future, tried to change things, or Trump went into the future and tried to change things, was unsuccessful, and came back and realized the only way to change the world and to save the world from Islamic extremism and ISIS was to come back and run for president, beat Hillary Clinton, and save the world. So there you have it. So obviously there's not a lot of truth for this, but there's just so many truth nuggets within this that are very interesting. One thing that's really interesting is that Trump, during all his interviews for a long time, would talk about his Uncle John, and he really never talked about how he helped cancer patients or did anything else. Trump always talks about how his uncle told him about nuclear war and told him about nuclear before nuclear was nuclear. Is it possible that John Trump went to the future and saw things? Maybe John Trump was John Titor. I mean, that could make sense too. But he literally always talks about how his uncle told him about nuclear war. In fact, listen to this quote. He would tell me there are things that are happening that could potentially be so bad for the world in terms of weaponry. He would tell me many years ago the power of weapons someday, and that the destructive force of these weapons would be so massive that it's going to be scary to the world. And what's odd about it is, like, that one statement, he told me about nuclear before nuclear was nuclear, basically before there was nuclear weapons being created, that it existed. And that's odd because Donald Trump was born in 1946 and the US definitely had nukes by then. So it's kind of like odd that he said that. Is it possible someone, maybe Trump, maybe his uncle, who knows, went back in time and wrote about the future in an old book in the 1800s and what was gonna happen, the last president, the riots in New York, all of that? Could it all be coming true and it was written in this timeline? Maybe in another timeline those books never existed, but maybe in this one they do. Does that make any sense? I feel like I sound insane, but it's just, you know, out of the box thinking here. Try to be open-minded for sure. And another thing you've probably heard Trump say a bunch of times is, I know more than the generals do. He has literally said, I know more about ISIS than the generals do.
I've heard different accounts, from 40 to 60,000 people. Good fighters, ISIS, good fighters. Smart, good. So I'm running for president. I'm leading in almost all the polls. And they asked me a question about ISIS. And I say to the announcer, I don't really want to answer it. And the next day, these idiots over here say, Trump doesn't know the answer. The reason I don't want to answer, because I don't want to tell the enemy. If I win, I don't want to have to. Does that make sense? I know more about ISIS than the generals do, believe me.
You still feel like you know more about ISIS than the generals?
Well, they don't know much because they're not winning. That I can tell you. Now, I think they're not winning for a different reason.
Is it possible, and I know it's hard because I am not a Trump fan, but is it possible that he does? And I know it sounds absolutely crazy, but is it possible that he knows so much because he actually went into the future and saw things that the current generals haven't seen, that he knows things because he's seen them, because his uncle literally had all of Nikola Tesla's documents? I mean, it's pretty crazy. That's all real. That is all 100% true. It's just whether or not you believe there was time traveling involved and all the other stuff. But the facts are facts that John Trump had those documents. And what's also fact is the books. The books are absolutely real books. So it's just like the weirdest thing. So this one definitely, you know, it's pretty out there. Probably is hard to believe for some of you. But yeah, that's the theory in a nutshell. There's a lot more online if you want to dig more into it. It's just such a crazy idea. And when I first started researching, I was like, this is gonna be BS. But then I couldn't believe it. I had no idea that Trump had those documents. I had no idea that John Trump was such a important person in our history. I mean, I just didn't know any of this. So who knows, guys? I want to know what you think below. Do you believe this? Do you think it's a bunch of BS? That's it for me today, guys. I hope you're having a great day, and I will see you next time. Bye.
And that is, everything around you that you call life was made up by people that were no smarter than you.
More than I can say, do it to me.